Good evening and welcome to the public hearing for the SAVE Plan and Code of Conduct. My name is Marcy Clapper and I'm the district clerk. I would like to note for those that are in attendance that this public hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available on the district website. Board members in attendance this evening are Gary Bracken, Michael Maselli, Leah Brown, and Dave Gibardo. A resolution was adopted by the Spencerport Board of Education on May 2nd, 2023, authorizing this evening's public hearing. A legal notice was then duly published in the West Side News and the Daily Record. An affidavit of publication is available upon request. We would ask that you please sign in on the sheet in the back of the room, and if you wish to make a public comment, please sign up for the public comment form. With that, I would like to introduce Mr. Jonathan Salzberg, our Executive Director of Operations, and Mr. Chris Mears, our Director of Security. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Quickly, just covering the procedures for the public hearing. If there are members of the public here who wish to speak, sign up at the back table. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. There will be no responses afterwards, but it is an opportunity to voice your opinion about the potential changes to the code of conduct. Minutes will not be taken. However, the hearing itself is being recorded through Zoom. And then, as Ms. Clapper indicated, the Zoom itself, as well as other documents, will be available on the district website. Our agenda for this evening is the opening, which we're finishing up, then code of conduct presentation by myself, then a SAVE plan presentation with any revisions for the year from Mr. Mears, an open public comment period for anyone who would like to step up to the podium and make comments, and then closure of the hearing. Start off with the code of conduct revisions for the year. For those who may be listening online, code of conduct provides for the maintenance and order of on school grounds. It was developed a number of years ago. It has been revised through the years, developed in collaboration with students, teachers, administrators, and parent organizations. It is reviewed and or revised and then subsequently approved by the Board of Education each year. Each school district must file the code of conduct with the Commissioner of Education no later than 30 days after adoption. In our case, what will happen is it will be, as I'll indicate towards the end, posted or printed and put in the superintendent's office for review prior to the board considering it at an upcoming meeting. So our process here in Spencerport, we formed a subcommittee of the District Health and Safety Committee. We have committee members there at the bottom, myself, as well as 2 board members and 2 assistant principals to look at the revisions for the code. We surveyed administrators, discussed the proposed changes, received feedback from building administrators, review by the superintendent, Board of Education review, and then public hearing, and then adoption. So for this year, changes to the code of conduct include updating the information regarding the tip line. The tip line itself has now been transformed into our use of the Safe School Helpline. This is just an excerpt of the information. The information in the code of conduct will actually mirror what is on the district website. With our subcommittee, we looked at the dress code guidelines, really kind of simplifying, rewording, modernizing some of the language. We took the steps to clarify that the principal sets the dress code for the building, as well as has the responsibility to inform the students as well as the families of the dress code and essentially enforcement as well. The older dress code had a number of provisions which we simplified down into 4 basic provisions that the board would retain, choose relating to the use of vulgar language, the use of illegal substances, as well as headwear. Each of those becomes almost an exception which stays in place irrespective of what the buildings put in place. The reason for the reinforcement of the principal's obligation is because we had 3 different levels. We have the elementary, the second, and the middle school, and then the high school with varying types of dress codes. The dress code itself is very similar, but where one may enforce open-toed shoes, one may not, or a different type of clothing. So we wanted to reinforce that it's the building principal's responsibility to set the dress code for appropriate for that level and appropriate for that building. Next, looking at the prohibited student conduct, It's a pretty large section of the code of conduct. We looked at really just adopting some language that reflects what kids are doing right now with the cell phones in the school, including adding they're indicated as number 5 under insubordinate conduct, taking pictures, videos, or audio recordings of adults or students without their knowledge and consent. And then on the right-hand side, disorderly conduct, just a slight modification to the provision for trespassing. In that section, the language that was there that's stricken in red really was kind of limiting. And it was noted during our survey of administrators that that limiting language prevented the application of the word trespassing to things such as grounds or stadiums or other areas of campus other outside of the building proper, if you will. So simplifying and moving these provisions of the code towards a kind of a general statement of just trespassing. Then what happens if it does end up at a hearing, then it is related to the charge prepared by the assistant principal and going to the hearing. Similar with this section of the endangering conduct related to cell phones recording or posting electronic audio or image of staff, we added the or posting and the staff just to clarify that the posting of some of those fights or other, really not just the fights, but the idea of students recording other students and then posting those online and making comments about the students. We wanted to reflect language prohibiting that. Some language for items 21 through 25 as additional entries into the code of conduct. Like, for example, number 23, sexual harassment, verbal or physical, just clarifying that some of the behaviors that the students are engaging in, not even with cell phones, but in relation to just aggressive verbal sexually related statements towards staff and other students needed to be reflected in the code of conduct in a simple manner, which prohibits that behavior and which is there reflected in the code of conduct in case a student goes to a hearing. For disruptive conduct in this section, this was more of a modernization and just eliminating some things that may have been required at some point earlier years ago in the code. For example, on number 5, unauthorized riding of bicycles on school grounds. We thought that was very outdated. And then I think a day or two later, one of our committee members noticed students riding their bicycles to Canal View Elementary. But the idea of riding without a helmet or other is kind of, I want to say, passé at this point. Now most require a helmet, and we would never bring a student to a hearing to prove that a parent did not give permission that they were not allowed to ride the bicycle to school. So these were essentially just items that were stricken. Disciplinary procedures. The language in yellow is simply an update to reflect more modern language regarding block or period of instruction, and clarifying that up to 55 minutes of elementary instruction. The previous language was at 45 minutes and did not encompass all of the specials that are in the current class allotment chart through the instruction office. But this kind of updated a section which is actually part of Education Law 3214 and has been in the Code of Conduct for a number of years. And that is the sum total of the potential changes for the Code of Conduct as we discussed at our last board meeting. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Mears, our Director of Security, to talk about any revisions for the SAFE plan.
Thanks. Good evening, everyone. Just a few words about revisions for the SAFE plan for the district for the 23-24 school year. So the SAFE plan is basically a district-wide safety plan, requires school boards to adopt and amend yearly. We review this plan annually. It's a district-wide comprehensive multi-hazard safety plan for all crises and emergencies that might happen within the district. The legislation requires, state legislation requires adoption of any changes to the district code of conduct and to the SAFE plan. Members of the district health and safety plan review these changes before we bring them here to the board. Recommendations brought here to the board, we then open the recommendations and changes to public review as well. So the SAFE plan requires that all plans include policies and procedures for addressing emergencies that are listed here. So responding to the threats of violence, the actual acts of violence, protocol for responding to specific threats, evacuations during a violent incident or emergency, and then the contacting of law enforcement and parents following a violent incident. The changes to the SAFE plan this year have been recommended mostly by Alteris. Alteris is a consulting group that the district employed. We're in our second year of service from Alteris. The first year, Alteris did a district-wide safety assessment, all buildings and properties on the district, and made a written recommendation in the form of a report. We're now actually going through that report and implementing the priority items from the Alteris security assessment. The second year that Alteris has been working for us, they have reviewed all of our safety plans in the district. Currently, the SAFE plan, which we're talking about this evening, has several revisions and they've moved some information around, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about really quickly. The goals of having Alteris do this for us, they confirm that all necessary components of the SAFE plan are present. So they have a lot of experience in revising these SAFE plans, not just here in New York State, but across the country. So they are aware of the state required minimum requirements for these SAFE plans. They make sure that that information is in our SAFE plan, and they also include the citations along with that information. So it's easy to look the information up if we need to. They provided some clarity on some confidential information. They made many recommendations on some of the information that was in last year's SAFE plan and recommended that we move that confidential or sensitive information to our building level plans, which are not public information. So as an outcome, the report is much more streamlined this year. As I said, some of that information that is sensitive has been removed to the building level emergency plans, and they provided the relevant citations for us. The updates to the plan this year consist mostly of revisions to the positions and contacts, people that have left the district or have joined us. The contact information has been updated. It included an updated emergency response protocol brochure, which we're required to release to parents and appropriate age students. It made us take a look at some of our MOUs and memorandum of understanding and agreement with some agencies. We've refreshed some of those that were outdated and created some new ones. And then again, as the building level plans come under review, they move the confidential information into those reports, and we should see those sometime, I'm hoping for July, but by August or September, we should see those district level safety plans. And that's a quick review of the changes to the district-wide SAFE plan. I'll turn it back over for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mears. At this time, is there anyone who'd like to step up to the podium and make any comments regarding the SAFE plan, the revisions to the SAFE plan, and the code of conduct? Seeing no one, and no one has signed in, we'll just close the hearing. At this point, there will be a 30-day review period with the documents in the superintendent's office. The SAFE plan must be available for review for 30 days. They'll board at this tentatively will be considering the changes at the June 20th meeting, and then we will have more information as well as this recording on the district's website, including the proposed changes to the code as well as the SAFE plan.